What's up, Cookies? Welcome to another Friday fashion episode. Fashion month just ended, Cookies, and girl, the chaos was premium. We're talking creative directors swapping houses faster than they swap playlists. Luxury prices are still delusional. In social media, the girls are fighting about the comments in the comments. But beneath the noise, something is shifting. The art, the money, and the message are all up for debate. And we're going to talk about it today. So today we are unpacking the great fashion reset. Who's really winning? Who's lost the plot? And what the next era might actually look like. Now, you know I got opinions. You know I'm going to have receipts and some truths. A lot of it. So let's get into it. Let's start with retail, okay? The girls are broke, they're tired, and they're confused. And so are the brands, or at least they're acting confused. Because here's the thing, consumers across the world are really facing so many things. Inflation, high living costs, global instability and uncertainty. And luxury keeps raising prices like we won't notice. Like, don't you know we can see you?
Nigga, did you know that I can see you?
The tariffs, production costs, increases, exclusivity tax, sure, but at what point is it just greed disguised as heritage? The business of fashion and even Vogue business are both calling this the luxury reset. It's a slowdown in growth, especially in the US and European markets in fashion. Really, the translation for me is them $4,000 handbags that people were popping off, that era might be cooling down. People are holding on to their pockets way more. And even recently, we went to Miami and I saw a pair of YSL jeans that were marked at $900 retail on websites, okay? I paid $109 for them at the outlets. And honestly, it's absurd. And this is like the second or third time that I found designer pieces at that level of markdown. So the real question starts to brew, like, how much of luxury pricing is actual cost and how much of it is fiction? Because somebody is lying. And I don't like when I'm lied to. You know, I respect certain pricing, but then again, some of it is just a little bit of ridiculous notion. And the truth is, people are smarter now. They are waiting for that drop in price. They're waiting for the resale and they're waiting for the archive selling live sales on TikTok. And that breaks the old system where urgency equaled status. When you were able to buy things as soon as it hits the floor, it's not that anymore. And honestly, the supply chain transparency issue is real. The math is still not mathing and customers are feeling it and their actions are certainly reflecting it. Okay, Cookies, let's get into my list because respectfully, the official rankings from BOF this season about who ranked in shows is very questionable. And I mean, no shade, but the fact that Bottega didn't make the top 10 is absurd, especially when you're talking about a debut that actually felt alive. So here are my rankings based on the new creative directors only, based on their design, direction, storytelling, and wearability. The number one slot for me goes to Bottega Veneta under Louise Trotter. This was the most fantastical debut that I've seen in years and one that actually honored the house codes. Louise Trotter really understood the assignment and then wrote the thesis on it, okay? She paid homage to people like Edward Buchanan, Bottega Veneta's first creative director for ready-to-wear in the 90s, Black man, and even featuring him in her debut campaign marketing. And that alone set the tone for lineage, legacy, and respect. From the fiberglass woven into leather, the intriato leather, and the intricate color stories, the craftsmanship. This is design married to artisanship. And when you give a woman the resources, the technology, and the space to explore centuries-old techniques, glassmakers, weavers, sculptors, this is what happens. To me, it was wearable, emotionally intelligent, quietly strong. And Louise reminded the industry what happens when art meets intellect. And I didn't see it coming because of the work that she did with Carvan or the lack of resources, but I'm so glad it happened. Number two goes to Chanel with Matthew Blazy. Matthew took risks this season and he said he acted like this was his last show. And that's exactly why it worked. He could have stayed clean and expected, but instead he created a whole new world literally within the house codes. I thought it was amazing. The tweeds were reimagined with depth. The shirts made by the same artisans who once crafted Coco Chanel's Lover's shirts carry the emotional weight with the actual chain in there. The colors, the new silhouettes, the hats, all of it was pure magic to me. And let's talk about those bags, honestly, because they were sleek, calm, vintage energy rather than the hype drops that we're used to seeing from them. And you can feel that shift. And when AWAR closed the show, you saw community, inclusion, joy. It felt really happy and freeing, which Chanel hasn't felt in a long time. And I'm glad that Matthew was there. I think he really brought it. Number 3 goes to Rachel Scott for Proenza Schuler. This pairing was divine alignment. Rachel brought what was missing at Proenza: texture, sensuality, and mystery. That's what it was known for, I felt in the beginning. And you could tell that this was a collaboration between her and the house. This was more of like a soft launch. She honored the Proenza legacy while still weaving in her Diotima DNA, her heritage, her perspective, her hands. It was sexy, it was soft, it was powerful. The color stories, the easy way the garments just moved off the body while still keeping integrity and form. Everything felt very intentional. It was the perfect soft launch as well because it was her collaborating with the house, not her full direction completely yet. So number 4 goes to Glenn Martins at Maison Margiela. Now he delivered an elevated Margiela moment to me. I thought it was very elevated and sleek. It was wearable. It was very grown up. It was real maturity, and there was restraint there too. I think he balanced design and marketability, something that a lot of houses have forgotten to do at this time. Um, I was a little nervous at first because I didn't see a tabby shoe until the very end, but that's what I loved also. Like, he didn't rely on the obvious. I did see myself in a lot of the looks, and I'm curious where he'll take the footwear next, since that's what's been holding up for the brand lately. So yeah, I'm curious to see how that goes. Number 5 goes to Dior, Jonathan Anderson. Now listen, Jonathan Anderson at Dior was very Jonathan Anderson. He pulled from Dior's heritage, but twisted it through his own brain, as he does. You have to really know the archives of Christian Dior to understand the layers of what he did. Christian Dior had the new look, while Jonathan gave us the new look, honey. There were moments where it felt very Loewe and J.W. Anderson collection, especially the skirt that everyone was raving about. And if you know that it literally is reworked. It's a reworked version from what he did before a few years back. The original skirt did pick up a lot of wind in the front. Trust me, I own it. So Dior, this version, definitely aviation proof, streamlined, and still very romantic, but very structural. Number 6 for me goes to Pier Paolo at Balenciaga. Now, it was very refreshing to see Pier Paolo back in the mix designing. He stayed true to Cristobal's original house codes at Balenciaga: elegance, form, sculpture, but gave it clarity. You know, there were still a little bit of traces of Denma's edge, but it was more refined. And I do think that it's because that's what it's been known for so long. But there were no gimmicks. There was no chaos, just beautifully cut clothing that women can actually wear, like with pride. It was grown. It was graceful. And I cannot wait to see the fall evolution. Yeah. Number 7 goes to Michael Ryder at Celine. Michael took Celine into that rock and roll nostalgia zone in the best way. Primary colors done right with really good hues, perfect scars, razor thin skinny jeans. It felt like the Beatles meets London punk. It's edgy, it's very clean, little defiant, but completely wearable. The draping was very elegant where it was, and the tailoring was even more sharp. And honestly, I saw a lot of pieces that I actually want to covet. That's the first for me when it comes to Celine. Number 8 actually goes to Miguel Castro Freitas. I hope I'm saying that correctly, at Mugler. Now, this one is a little interesting from my perspective. I will be honest, some of the elements felt a bit cheap, like a few stones and some detailing, but overall it was elevated to me and a good take on Mugler's modern identity. I think it was a lot less streetwear, more structure, still bold, still conscious, and still unapologetically feminine. And I love the new gradients and the sculpted shoulders. It gave very powerful woman and not too costume. I think he's finding a balance, and I'm actually really here for it. Number 9 goes to Dario Vitale at Versace. Now, a lot of folks did not like this one, but honestly, I did. It was giving Gianni's 90s realness, like very playful, sexy, a little nostalgic. And people kind of got hung up on the styling, which I can understand. But when those singular pieces hit stores, I do think they're going to sell. So, this was fun. It was confident Versace, not gaudy, not forced, just good fashion. And honestly, that's been missing for the brand, if you ask me. Number 10 goes to Nicholas Auburn at Aria. Aria needed this reboot. I ain't gonna lie to you, because they were starting to look really kitschy, like craft project couture. Ooh. Nicholas tone, I think it's just, he brought back its wearability. Yeah. The razzle dazzle was still there, but it had way more intentionality. Because let's be real, like not all of us can wear a banana adorned dress to brunch. But those who did looked amazing. Give that tea. Yeah, y'all looked amazing in those pieces, but we needed a little bit different. So let's talk about the rest, because we do need to talk about them. Let's discuss Loewe, Jack McCullough, and Lazara Hernandez. I was honestly surprised that they were placed at a new brand after all their time at Proenza, but okay. I think they brought their same energy, primary colors, clean leather work, but it lacked a pulse. The flamenco bag, though, with the double layered leather detailing was genius. I'm going to give credit where it's due, because it gave respect to the code of the brand. But I still wonder, I really feel like they're crying in the car and calling Jonathan Anderson for some advice on how to move forward. Mark Howard at Carven. It was lovely, it was clean, it was wearable, but missing the spark. And I really feel like they need to invest in outreach and marketing if they want to move the needle at all for the brand. Simone Bellotti at Jill Sander. It was dull, beautiful craftsmanship, but just no life. And sometimes perfection can actually be very boring for a brand. Duran Lantique at Jean Paul Gaultier. Maybe 3 looks worked at all, but the rest, distasteful. Hairy bodysuits with exposed genitals, not even blurred, not stylized, just shock value. I think there's a difference between avant-garde and offensive. And this felt more circusy than couture. And there was no sensuality, just no mystery. It was just a lot of noise. That's my lineup. Design, narrative, respect for the craft still matter to me. And these are the designers that are proving it, if you ask me. Because in 2025, fashion doesn't just need to sell clothes. It needs to feel like something again. I also feel like the industry is still uncomfortable to highlight and respect women creative directors' intuition and genius. But we'll talk about that on a different day. Now, let's get into our third segment. All right. Let's talk about Edward Buchanan, the original Black creative director for ready-to-wear at Bottega Veneta in the 90s.
At that level, I was one of the only Black men working in that space.
At the age of 24, you were plucked from obscurity in New York City and flown to Italy to become the first ready-to-wear designer of Bottega Veneta. Please tell me the story.
All of the people that have kind of catapulted me to any kind of job, I met everyone in the club.
What you're saying is we should go out more often.
You should go out more often. To make money during school, I was doing window display for Giorgio Armani. Rodney Patterson was doing window display at Bottega Veneta. He told me that they were looking for a ready-to-wear designer. Bottega Veneta was only accessories at the time, so it was bags and it was shoes and other accessories, but there wasn't apparel. I was a great illustrator, even if I didn't necessarily know how to make the things that I illustrated, but it was a convincing project and it got me hired.
Wow.
And I was flown off to Vicenza, not even Milan at that time.
What was the culture shock like moving to Italy in the 90s coming from New York City?
Oh, God. I flew into the airport, Venice airport, and I was stopped by the police. I had dreadlocks. I probably had a sweatshirt on similar to this one. They were convinced that I had drugs. At that time, I didn't even smoke cigarettes. They strip searched me. I did a full cavity search, and they were like, oh, we didn't find anything, you can go. No apologies, no explanation, nothing. And that was my introduction to Italy. A horrible incident, but somehow informed my position within society that I was arriving into. A foreign place that's not used to people that look like you. At that level, I was one of the only Black men working in that space.
So were you the very first black designer to have one of these massive public-facing jobs?
You know, in the European space, I think so. Oswald Boateng went to Givenchy after me. Lauren Steele was working inside of Prada at that time, but as the head of ready-to-wear, I think so. I hate that first conversation. It's been very interesting in the last period because a lot of young creatives and people in general that didn't know this story found out through social media. There was no way for it to come to the surface. When this story popped out, it was fucking crazy, man. I never had that kind of... I'm quite a discreet creative. It's never about me as a creative. It's about the work that I do. Shortly after that, I was contacted by Bottega to be in the campaign, and I was like, whoa, what the fuck? What do you want from me?
When a new creative director comes onto a house, it's quite rare to look back and pay tribute to the previous creative directors.
I didn't really have contact with the past creative directors of Bottega Veneta. I was intrigued by the work that Daniel did. I loved what Mitu did. I'm so excited about what's to come from Louise. She's the only one that I had real contact with. And when she contacted me, I was like, that's badass. That's cool. It takes confidence and also respect. I think she saw value in that. And I think Bottega Veneta saw value in that story. I think you have to understand the origin before you can tell the future. It's my story, it's my history, and I don't talk about it so often. It was a bit emotional to kind of think back and tell those stories of what that period meant to me. I was honored to be there, and they treated me with fucking respect.
That you deserve.
Again, Louise Trotter honored him beautifully in her debut marketing campaign for the house earlier this year, and finally giving credit to one of the most quiet architects of Bottega's modern DNA, to be honest. And Buchanan didn't just show up for nostalgia's sake. Like, he's been around, but he did speak up a little bit more this season, I think, and he was urging critics on the internet and commentators to play nice. And I get it. I get what he means. Designers do have hearts, and these collections take months, years, sometimes lifetimes to build, and there's a lot of context that a lot of us don't have. But accountability isn't cruelty, Edward. I don't think that. Social media has made fashion feel like a live forum, and that's fashion's fault. Everyone's a critic and a curator and a publicist. But what's interesting is how we criticize now. We're not just reviewing clothes, we're questioning systems and ethics and access because the trust is missing in this industry. And again, that is fashion. That's fashion's fault. And honestly, some people in fashion aren't ready for that. They aren't ready for the monster that they actually created and let happen. Okay. Yohji Yamamoto said recently that fashion has become a joke, and a lot of it has. It's a game of children chasing the same ball, forgetting their customers. And that hit me because I do think it's true. And I love the fact that he's like so unapologetic about it, and he hates that he's so famous now. But we've got brands obsessed with going viral, houses scrambling for youth appeal, and influencers fighting for legitimacy in a space that often treats them like they're uninvited guests. A lot of them, not the white ones though. Let's be clear. I'm just being honest. And even some of the insiders that once dismissed content creators are now doing outfit videos, get ready with me's, brand trips, sponsored campaigns. And look, I love that for them because there's money for everyone. But let's be real. They're suddenly playing the same game that we built without even crediting the players who made it possible. And that's a problem for me. I ain't gonna hold you. That's a problem. Even some of our own Black elite in fashion are doing the same. Quietly taking up the influencer space, aligning with brands, yet not using the position to bring more of us in. And that they're not gonna do it. I know they're not gonna do it. Because it's like spineless, you know? But it's wild how quickly the energy shifts when the cameras start favoring a new kind of fame. Because for every polished insider suddenly posting outfit of the days, there are creators out here editing until 3 a.m., financing their own looks, studying archives, and still not getting an invite. But c'est la vie. It is what it is. Okay. So when Edward says have a heart, I do agree. I have to add this. They need to have a vision too, because heart without evolution keeps us stuck in the same loop, chasing that ball, forgetting who fashion was really made for. Okay, let's get into something a little bit more fun. Okay. For my new season shoppers who want to dip their toes into something new with these new creative eras, let's talk entry pieces that I think are top tier. So here's my top entry items to watch. Number one, those Bottega Veneta clogs. They're sculptural, practical, destined for obsession in all colors, and I'm very much here for it. Chanel's new tweed jackets and mules, effortless French luxury and refreshed. I love that mint detail. Versace belts, a revival of the bold logo moment, but it's done tastefully. I think we're going to go there. We're going to go there again. Now, the Dior D-shaped loafers with a little cutout, that's a perfect brand entry piece. They're sleek and very structured. Balenciaga's platforms thong sandals, they're very elevated, but with edge. The Celine scarf top is a dream. It's adult and it feels lived. And those are just some of the pieces that tell a story, not just of fashion, but like of transition as well. And I just think those are like the coolest items to really like keep your eye on for next season, to like make sure you know when they're going to hit the store floor. I feel like those aren't going to make it to sale. I'm gonna be really honest with you. I don't know those are going to make it to sale. This fashion month was a mirror. We saw the cracks, we saw brilliance, and we saw exhaustion. Tapping out to tap back in, to tap back out. Luxury is redefining itself for sure, and consumers are demanding value. Creatives are fighting for soul again, and social media, baby, that internet is judge and jury now, okay? But Cookies, let's get real. I want to hear from you. Which shows were your favorites this season? Who was overhyped in your mind? Who got snubbed and didn't get enough flowers and light? I want to hear it. Put it in the comments. Let's have some real talk. But also on another note, and on a bigger note, let's talk about access and inclusion, because a lot of it's getting lost in translation and they're sweeping it under the rug. Why does the industry, in your opinion, keep inviting the same whitewashed skinny creators who barely work on their content? I'm sorry, but I'm just, because listen, while they're overlooking plus size creators, Black gay men, the women who actually live and breathe this fashion shit, Black women. And the few Black women who do get invited to these spaces, it's usually the ones that pass or make fashion a comedy sketch, and now they're the muses of Law Roach. But the ones who produce, study, and respect this industry, and have been for years, are still waiting. I mean, listen, we are the consumers. We are also the influence, and yet we're systematically ignored. And it's like, it's nasty in a way that they do it. And funny enough, the same fashion elite who once mocked us are now becoming us, creating content, which I do love a lot of it, what they're making deals, doing the very thing they swore wasn't real fashion. They thought we was goofy out here. We see you and we always have. But I digress. So Cookies, which designers, which moments, which narratives spoke to you the most this season and why? Let's talk about it. No filters, respectfully though. Please be respectful. Y'all see the guidelines of commenting, but just fashion, truth, and style. Okay? Stay stylish. Remember to stay informed and never let that markup play you. Okay, boo? But I'll see you next Fashion Friday. Thank you so much for watching. Bye, Cookies.